when you're weathering the effects of this in a couple months, I want you to remember who the only motherfucker brave enough to talk about this was. Because a lot of other people are dead silent on this, even people who are nominally climate conscientious. I personally think it's because a lot of people understand that if they're public figures, like if they're YouTubers or whatever, there's actually not a lot of money in doomsaying like this, because the correct response when looking at all this is to go, damn, it seems like nothing matters, really. You guys aren't going to be happy about this one, and I'm sorry, but unfortunately, it's worth talking about. Every single predictor of what 2027 is going to look like has gotten unimaginably worse in the past week. It's really, really difficult to overstate how bad it's getting. 2027 is going to be the hottest year in human history by a long shot. Yeah, it's going to be pretty rough. Yeah, there's the Dust Bowl. You can see it's kind of different. Looks a little different now. Here's a chart on CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. As you can see, that's not looking great. But here's the most interesting new style of chart that I've seen to describe just how bad things are looking right now in the Pacific, which is a measurement of how much excess energy is contained within the subsurface Pacific Ocean. So how much of a heat battery is built up right now in the ocean. And you have 3 El Niños here, 2 previous ones and the one that's still building now. You have 1997, 2015, both really bad El Niños, which together were approximately 27 and 28 years of human global energy use stored as batteries in the ocean. So in 2015, stored in the ocean was an excess amount of energy equivalent to about 28 years of human global energy use. Now, with our current El Niño still building, we're at 47 years. Typically, mind you, the El Niño heat curve continues to build until around early November. What does battery mean in this context? Right now, stored in the Pacific Ocean, there is an amount of excess heat above the norm, equal to approximately 47 times the amount of energy all of humanity uses in a year. Does that make sense? So if you took all of the energy that humanity uses in a year, multiplied it by 47, that is the amount of heat energy currently stored in the Pacific in excess of the normal amount, and it's still building. Yeah, but what are the implications? We're all going to die. That's the implication. It means 2027 is going to be extremely, unbelievably hot because the excess energy is going to be diffused from the ocean into the atmosphere. So here's July 2025, sea surface temperature anomaly, non-El Nino year. Looks pretty normal. Looks all right. And here's right now. NOAA and other news agencies have to keep adding additional keys to their maps, you know, like this much higher, that much higher. Really, really, really nasty stuff. It does look like a Peruvian death ray. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Surf's up. Yeah, I mean, on the plus side, if you live in Latin America, now is a super, super, super great time to take a dip in the Pacific because it is mighty toasty out there. It's going to be hot for us, but holy shit, the sea life is getting obliterated. Yeah, unfortunately, it is leading to lower chlorophyll. It's one of those run-on effects of climate change, where eventually it gets so hot that the ocean stops being as good of a carbon battery, which means that it just gets hotter and hotter. So it's kind of like a little bit the end times, a little bit. We're going to have to do like a nuclear winter to stop this runaway effect. We still have months of El Nino building. Will the Netherlands be okay? Nowhere on Earth will be okay. So this means huge storms? Yeah, in addition to like everything else, yeah. Blocking out the sun when? Oh, on the plus side, this does settle a lot of other potential debates because at this point we basically have no choice but to do climate engineering, you know? Like dumping shit in the atmosphere. Pretty much got no choice at this point. Yeah, look at the depletion of chlorophyll in the water. It's getting too hot for them. This is 2025, 2026. You do not want lowered chlorophyll in the water. Means less oxygen in the air. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, as you can see, hold on. This is general greenhouse gases, but the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is like 80% higher than it was just 100 years ago. I mean, where in terms of total greenhouse gases, it's doubled, you know? I mean, this is in no time. This is just overnight, basically. Look at the amount of tornadoes being caused. Yeah, this is just now. This is in the buildup. The battery is still building, but it is leading to a lot more anomalous behavior. What's happening to Illinois? Tornadoes, according to the map. Why is my state blacked out? Probably the tornadoes would be my main guess, Super bad. There are hikes that my beautiful partner and I want to go on before we move, but at the moment, both of them are forest fires. So that's a little unfortunate. I know we're all doomers here, but do you think there's a chance the world can do something to stop this? Yeah, it's gonna take climate engineering. It's going to take like direct intervention. We're going to have to wrap up the upper atmosphere, and we're gonna have to block out the sun. Ukraine and Iran need to stop, keep striking the refineries in Russia and Gulf. That is true. That is true. Genuinely, like unironically, Iran is like actually saving the world, like brute force style. Pretty much just doing what eco-terrorists would be forced to do anyway. Ring the bells, my lord. You're right. You're right. No, you're right. You're right. Keep in mind, like the battery is still building right now. We haven't even hit El Nino. The sea surface temperature anomaly in the Pacific right now is nearly at peak, and we're still months to go before the El Nino is done building. Pretty much every model suggests that we're going to be breaking the previous record by a minimum of 1 degree Celsius, which is bad. Washington Post has an article on the effects of the El Nino that we're expecting to see. Do you see actual eco-terrorism becoming a thing in the U.S. eventually? It's going to be a thing everywhere. Yeah, it's inevitable. It's completely inevitable. Our harvest is going to be the worst ever. Yeah. Global harvests are suffering right now. The United Kingdom right now, the entirety of the United Kingdom basically is under drought. Bad drought. Totally unprecedented, like in the whole history of the Isle. Huge swaths of the historically very, very wet United Kingdom are just dead, completely dead. Most of Europe. Yeah, just keep in mind the United Kingdom is known for typically being, wet, kind of it's sort of a thing it's known for, but not right now. Not right now. A much anticipated El Nino that developed this summer is on track to become the strongest ever recorded, with cascading effects on global climate peaking late this year and into next. Water temperatures in the central equatorial Pacific Ocean, where El Nino is measured, have been at record levels for more than 2 months straight. Good. Most of England's under drought. Yeah, look at that. Just imagine how high food prices are going to spike next year, Global food harvests are going to be abysmal for 2027 and 2028. Either from areas getting flooded or just total drought. I think a majority of England is under hose pipe restrictions right now. You can't use your garden hose. They're rationing out water, but still no work being done. Burnham hasn't even mentioned this. The new PM, Burnham hasn't even mentioned it. Total climate catastrophe. But as I've said many times, a friend of Israel, Burnham may be, it makes him an enemy of humanity. All death. Just everyone dies. Friend of Israel means enemy of all life. He does have burn in his name, that's true. Washington Post is tracking monthly updates, projected to reach an average peak of around 4.1 degrees Celsius above average in December, more than a degree higher of record-breaking El Nino. Yeah, here we go. So here's the current projection for our El Nino, and here's the strongest El Ninos that have ever happened in human history. So as you can see, the forecast is putting us a little bit above where we ought to be. Less than ideal, a little bit less than ideal, I would say, but I'm not a meteorologist, People people dog on me, they get mad at me for covering climate stuff, but I'm sorry, like in the face of the climate stuff, literally every other problem is meaningless. I'm not trying to do an oppression Olympics thing or whatever, intersectionality, everything's connected. More like we're talking about a mass death event that would make every other mass death event a rounding error, Chinese famine, World War II, the Holocaust, the Holodomor, nothing. It's all everything. Basically what I'm saying is that we're building up to an event that's going to fuck up the human death event casualty, like power scaling. Because up until this point, people are like, oh, Stalin killed the most, Pol Pot, Mao, Hitler, But now we're going to have the climate 2027. That's going to be right there at the top, and everything else is going to look unimpressive. It's going to fuck up people's educations. They're going to be learning about World War II, and they're going to be like, oh, only like 60 million people died? What are the chances the first world keeps importing food from poor states and basically does a global Irish famine? I'd say like probably 100%. Probably, yeah, like around 100%, maybe a little higher. 102% with a rounding error of 2%, Or a margin of error, sorry, of 2%. 5 minutes in, I already need aspirin. I just want you all to know that when you're weathering the effects of this and it's going to start in a couple months, by the way, when you're weathering the effects of this in a couple months, I want you to remember who the only motherfucker brave enough to talk about this was. Because a lot of other people are dead silent on this, even people who are nominally, climate conscientious. And I personally think it's because a lot of people understand that if they're public figures, like if they're YouTubers or whatever, there's actually not a lot of money in doomsaying like this, because the correct response when looking at all this is to go, damn, it seems like nothing matters, really. I'm not saying it's a correct response in terms of like nothing you do matters, because stuff you do always matters, but more like, it does kind of make everything else feel a little bit, it does compel bad feelings. They've shut off all water in Puerto Rico every other day due to drought. Have you even heard about this? Bet you a lot of people, the powers that be, the Zionist establishment, doesn't want you to know that we're all marching towards our death. So in Puerto Rico, you even hear about this? Millions and millions of people on severe drought, water rationing. You even heard about this? In the center of the capital, San Juan, Sonia Palacios lives in one of the many neighborhoods in Puerto Rico where running water is no longer a sure thing. Her apartment's on the ground floor of a 3-story building. Do you have water right now? She says, I'll show you. She walks to a faucet on the side of her apartment and turns the knob. Nothing. Not a drop. Although Puerto Rico officially began rationing water last week, many people, like Palacios, have been coping with dry taps for months now. Sometimes she gets water for a full day or two, sometimes just for an hour. How do you think the people of Puerto Rico feel that they're dealing with this, and the global media, not American media too, don't even talk about it? It's what it's going to be like when it happens to your town. You might think you're fine because you live within the borders of the United States. Trust me, you're not. If it happened to Flint, Michigan, it'll happen anywhere. Your town of 100,000, 200,000, a million, it's going to hit it too. And you're going to look at the global media and be like, why is no one talking about it? You know why. Because the people who cause this are the people that own the media. Half the UK under the hosepipe ban. Bet you a lot of people don't even know this. 26 million people under a hosepipe ban. Sorry, bucko, no garden hose for you. Any regulations on corporations? Any mandatory repairs to their ailing water infrastructure that leaks water into the ground and wastes it? Nope, nope, nope. Regulations for ye, but not for thee. Colorado already had one town abandoned over water this year. Jesus Christ. Colorado's small town abandoned after all elected officials resign. Water concerns grow. Hartman with a population of 30. Well, that explains it. Still kind of grim, huh? Just remember, nobody in charge has a plan. Nobody has a plan. If it happens to a town with 30 people, it can happen to the city of Los Angeles. I mean it. I mean it. There's no like secret, super duper extra competent government that steps in when things get really bad. When things get really bad, you're dealing with the same government that you've been dealing with up until this point, and everything that implies. Warmer seas that develop in the remote parts of the world, highlighted in the above map, cause thunderstorm patterns to change there. Changes in thunderstorm patterns cause storm-carrying ribbons of wind in the upper atmosphere called jet streams to change speed and direction, affecting weather patterns across the globe. FEMA has been forced to remove the word climate from the entire agency lexicon. Yeah, of course. This is part of Project 2025. As part of the mainstream conservative goal of ending all life on Earth, FEMA is legally prohibited from tracking like climate change. Have been for over a year now. How will this El Nino impact the weather through October? Well, let's find out, huh? Year's phase is expected to have a profound upward influence in global temperatures, with more than an 80% chance for 2027 to be the warmest year on record. Through October, around 3 billion people across the planet have at least a 10% chance of experiencing temperatures that are in the top 5 percentile of historic values at the time of the year. That's this October, by the way. Not next October. These places may experience very unusual warmth compared to what is normal. The southern and northwestern United States, the Caribbean, Central America, and northern Southern America, large parts of Africa and Europe, Middle East, India, Indonesia, and Southeast Asia. That's a lot of places, folks. That's a lot of places. Let's see. Much less precipitation, and many areas will have much more precipitation. Dry areas, extremely wet conditions, a lot of stuff. Very, very high humidity. How much is climate change to blame? Ocean temperatures are rising mostly because of climate change. Thanks, the Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness, owned by Jeff Bezos. I appreciate that. This is the plan to end homelessness by having all the homeless die of heat stroke and starvation. If it makes you feel any better, the outcomes of this aren't going to be, like, entirely classist. Loads and loads and loads of well-off middle-class first worlders are going to die, too. Don't worry. Viewer rate will probably have. That's the reason why I've been encouraging you guys to go outside and get more exercise. And so you're more likely to survive the next year and thus continue to provide me views and income. I appreciate that, by the way. Just trying to make sure my audience is resilient, you know. I don't want to cultivate an audience of, you know, heat susceptible, I don't want to use a disparaging term for big boned individuals, but let's say people with a little bit less resilience to the heat, and then you all get fucking toasted to death. And then what do I have? I'm streaming the Kowalski and no one else. You should think about moving from the US? Don't worry, I'm moving to a country completely unaffected, prospectively, by sea level rises. The Netherlands. The Republican Party wants all of this to happen, of course, because they worship Moloch and the mass death of all living things. The Democratic Party is weak and feckless, so is not talking about this, at least not meaningfully. The Labour Party and the Tories and Reform are all varying levels of okay with this. The Green Party over in the United Kingdom is talking about it. Not that media over there is taking them seriously. And if you ever mention climate change on Twitter, your replies get swarmed with bots who say it's all fake. It's all bots, you know, which should be a reminder to you guys that, like, there is still a lot of money being spent and a lot of effort being expended on the project of climate change denial, even as we're headed into, like, the end times. But remember, they're not really the end times because that implies that we hit a new bad normal. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse until something's done. There aren't any mechanisms that correct for this. You know, the worse climate change gets, the more the planet dies off, which means there's fewer carbon sinks, which means that the atmosphere just gets warmer and warmer. It's a runaway effect that's probably going to end up stabilizing somewhere around 10 to 12 degrees Celsius above norm, which would basically end life on Earth, at least as we know it, unless we do something. We have to change. We're no longer like at a, you know, like net zero is nothing. Carbon net zero is nothing. Nothing. It means nothing anymore, you know? That's like, that's carbon net zero is like successfully removing your foot from the accelerator when your car is rolling downhill, you know?
This summer, we're in the 5th heat wave of this summer. Thousands of people have died from the extreme heat. Where is our government? Not only has Andy Burnham failed to take any action on the extreme weather, but he's now considering allowing new oil and gas drilling in the North Sea. Last week, the UN General Secretary warned that every new fossil fuel project makes tomorrow's heat waves even more dangerous and our future less secure. And let's be very clear, drilling for more oil and gas is deadly. It's estimated that the extreme heat caused by the emission...
Andy Burnham allegedly is about to open up more drilling permits, so that's cool. Friend of Israel, the famous Stonehenge. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. No one even cares, dog. It's not a drop of water. Conservative leader won't allow candidates that support net zero.
Under your policy, if it were applied in the 1930s, Winston Churchill would have been kicked out of the Conservative Party.
Well, it's not. Winston Churchill left the Conservative Party and came back. He is not the best example. I actually think that what I'm doing is actually the sort of thing that would solve those problems. We've had the debate. This isn't just a random thing that I've cooked up. We had a debate in the party about ECHR. We had a debate in the party about net zero, something which I've been talking about for many years. We've had the debate. We now have a decision.
Forgive me, what was the answer to Winston Churchill? I mean, would you like me to give you someone else?
So just to be perfectly honest, Winston Churchill switched parties from time to time. I think that we can accept that sometimes there are exceptions. Exceptions are not how I am planning to run the party.
Yes, but hold on. Under your policy, if it were applied in the 1930s, Winston Churchill would have been kicked out of the Conservative Party.
Well, it's not. Winston Churchill left the Conservative Party and came back. He is not the best.
I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure if I understand what they're talking about. I thought they were talking about net zero, but it's not even mentioned in the clip here. Why is the leader of Tories a black woman? Why are they woke? Have you seen who leads the AFD in Germany? About 12,000 heat-related deaths in Germany this summer. Like I said, rounding error. We're talking billions of deaths. Why are they still so obsessed with Churchill? Because that was the last time that the United Kingdom was politically relevant on a global scale. After Churchill, of course, you know, the empire got dismantled post-World War II, and now the United Kingdom has to, you know, divert infrastructure projects to avoid upsetting Dobby's grave. You all saw that, right? What about Thatcher? At no point did Thatcher elevate the United... Thatcher, like Reagan in the United States, opened up the United Kingdom to infinite financial rape. At no point did Thatcher restore the United Kingdom's status as a global power, not even remotely. The Falklands were nothing. A little petty territorial dispute that she took advantage of for electoral reasons because, you know, because it was politically expedient. That is nothing to do with nothing. The Falklands. Yeah, not great climate-wise. Not good. Kind of a world-ending dealio a little bit, in my opinion, but not to get woke with it. MAGA will be remembered as the Pharisees of climate change. I'm really, really sorry. I understand. I know I keep harping on this, but this was going to happen no matter what. The Trump administration is infinitely servile to capital, so they are the most shameless in bringing about the end times, but everything that's happening right now was going to happen even if Biden or Kamala Harris had won in 2024, because everyone is infinitely servile to capital. You know, some groups are just more shameless about it. It's not great. What if Al Gore won in 2000? I'm not sure how much of a difference it would have made. Probably not that much. Remember, the fighting climate change isn't just about being aware of climate. It means organizing against the unified interests of capital and their shared desire to end all life on Earth, which takes a huge mandate, you know, huge mandate.